I'm Lola.
And I'm Mamuna. Together, we've a combined 35 years of experience within the tech scene in North America and Europe.
We talk about the highs, the lows, the WTFs of navigating the technology industry and answer your questions about navigating tech careers.
This is Lost in Tech.
I've often felt that opinions should be stated as opinions. These are not mandates.
Based off of experience.
Yeah, but when you have a influence, when you recognize what role you play in the world, there are certain things that I would love to say that I won't say in a specific way because I recognize people take their cues from me as a leader, as a female in this. It's like I recognize the position I hold. And so if my opinion is just an opinion, I do not state it as fact, mandate, or manifesto.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important that you know that. You can't just be flippant about this stuff. And so positioning it as a manifesto, positioning it as a zero-sum belief system, you would probably walk it back and be like, it was just, it was fun. It was just an opinion. It was just a bit of clickbait. There's a whole heap of incel people in some backwater coming up with a new product who do not get that. Okay.
I was going to say for a second there, I was like, oh, we should just jump into the episode and start recording. And then I was like, no, what? No, we won't do that.
I'm okay to call out incels. I'm sorry.
True.
I'm okay to call that whole movement and misogyny and misogynoir out on its ass.
True.
But the point being, there are pockets of the internet and the world who read things like this and they believe it for what it states itself as a manifesto. And you have a responsibility when you're a leader of a certain level. It's okay to have your privilege. It's okay for this to be your experience, but do not package harmful ideas in such binary ways.
But okay, I agree with you, right? I think that when you think about leaders, I think there are leaders who fall into leadership roles, positions, places due to circumstances in life, right? Things just happen to take them there, and they're a leader in, I won't say in action, but they're a leader in circumstance. And then there are leaders who build themselves up as leaders, you know?
Yeah.
And those are the leaders, I think maybe the more mature people you see in, I don't know if I should be saying this. The more mature people you see in tech, you wouldn't see certain CEOs and certain leaders write manifestos or carry such opinions, or if they have them, they maybe keep them to themselves. Privately, right? Because they understand that if they were to say something, there is a consequence. There is an audience out there who is listening to them, who looks up to them, who wants to be like them, who's really digesting every word. And so there's a difference, I think, in leaders. They're not all the same.
They're not all the same. Well, and you make a good point about we have an assumption that when someone has done one thing well, they'll do all things well.
Yes.
And we struggle to see that people can be quite spiky in their capabilities and skills. And so we expect our world leaders to know every single detailed thing about every single subject in the world. And they can't. Or we expect tech bosses to somehow be incredible at navigating geopolitical situations. And they really can't.
Yeah.
And we struggle to accept that someone can excel here and be inherently flawed there. And I think that human state is a fact.
Yeah.
But because we struggle with it, and then because social media makes it so easy to sit in these absolute, pedestal-like positions, people start believing their own hype.
Yeah.
And they start thinking they're good at shit they're not good at. And then they put content out that maybe they should have kept in their diary. Or something.
Yes. I mean, could you imagine yourself writing a manifesto?
No.
Why not?
Because who the hell am I? A manifesto for what? A manifesto for how to make good jollof rice? Yes. That I can write. That I am willing to write because I know how to make good jollof rice.
Right.
Why on earth would I weigh in on the future of mankind? Why would I do that? Why I can have an opinion. Why would I weigh in on whether or not politics is failing us? Like, it just doesn't. I can have that opinion at a dinner table with my friends.
So not who, but not like in a person's name, but who do you actually think is qualified to write manifestos?
It depends on what the manifesto is about, right? And so,
Right.
Okay, so let's actually take that nuance. So this is a Tech-Optimist Manifesto.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to first identify yourself as a tech optimist. And
Yes.
he qualifies as that. And you first have to have probably lived experience building technology products at scale that impact millions of people.
Sure.
Those qualifications are true. But what it actually is, it's a treatise on the state of humanity and politics.
Yeah.
And the decisions that are failing us, and therefore the technology that will save us.
Yes.
And I identify as a techno-optimist.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I'm probably going to leave that at the door of, is this technology doing its job well?
Mm-hmm.
And I probably would hold back from stating that it is the chariot horse that we need to ride into the future on.
Mm-hmm.
Just because,
Yes.
like...
I think it's interesting, though, that a person feels that they are responsible for sharing that, for being the one to publish those words and drive. I don't even know what to drive. I don't know what I don't even know the words there. But to drive that thinking forward.
To influence the opinions of others. Yeah.
Influence the opinions of others. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's
interesting. Yeah, that's where I think that's where I feel the line blurs, right? Is if you have you can argue like your blog is your personal space on the internet and
Sure.
you can use whatever you want. But when that blog becomes popular, when it becomes influential, when you know it's a vehicle whereby decisions and positions are changed and iterated, you enter a space where you are actively now, every piece of content you put out has intention. And I'm going to call out another famous tech blogger here who I have had problems with over the last 2 years. Fondly referred to as DHH on various platforms, the founder of one of the early Ruby enthusiasts and like somebody, anyway, he's just a very opinionated, I honestly, I can't even remember the companies that he successfully runs now because I don't know how successful they are. He's certainly very opinionated about politics at work and race at work and the dynamics of whether people are allowed to have DEI and inclusion initiatives and all that stuff. And his blog and his social platform turned into an anti-inclusion space really quickly over the course of a year in a way that I know directly harmed people working in tech. So I'm like, him and Marc know people watch their stuff and read their content and make business decisions on it. To say they don't know that would be naive. So they know that, then they write these things and they put them out there. And there's always this caveat that can exist. It's my personal blog. It's just an opinion. I'm just voicing my perspective. It's my lived experience. And you're an influencer.
Yeah.
And your voice carries, and people listen to you and take action, and there's a subset of people who believe that your playbook is the playbook.
Right.
So stay in that other space too and recognize, like, if you're just being flippant or joking or taking a piss, say so.
State it.
Because it will harm someone. Someone will make a decision based on this, and it has consequences. That's if no one listens to you, no one listens to our podcast at the moment. So maybe, it's fine.
Just say whatever. It's fine.
Just say whatever. But if we blew up, Mamuna, if we blew up, would I say certain things when we blow up? Am I going to just dismiss the shit out of humanity? I'm not.
No, you're not. But I think that goes to the two types of people. It's probably more than two. But there's the people who circumstances lead them to where they are, and it's more cushion is the word I want to use, but it's a different path in that direction versus I'm building myself there. I understand, what it means to be influenced. I understand what it means to absorb these words from others. I don't actually think that, when he was writing it, most people probably would say, okay, if I'm going to write a manifesto, I'm going to do some research. I'm going to understand what's out there in the world. Like I'm going to come into this informed, balanced understanding. And there's none of that.
Of consciousness.
Yes. It is a straight up just word vomit. Here's what I think. Here's how I feel. These are not even my opinions. Like this is factually how I think about things.
Yeah. This is the only way anyone who's ever intelligent or has a brain cell could possibly think about it.
The enemies section, I just, I don't know. When you say stream of conscious and you're like, that section to me really took me some time to work through because, you question as you're reading the words, each sentence, you're like, why is the sentence here? What are they trying to convey? What's trying to be communicated? And I got stuck in some places, to say the least.
It's the I think this section in particular was really interesting because it's kind of like it's the perfect encapsulation of what every conspiracy theorist believes is wrong with governments, right? It's like, it's not, they, first of all, it's the they. So he's not just like, it's not people, it's bad ideas. But it very quickly becomes, they think this and they think that. And it becomes like this idea of like experts. I have so many thoughts. I think my summary view of this article is, this is a great example of what happens when the tech that we have built,
friends around you to tell you no.
It's too easy to put stuff out there, and you needed a friend to edit. You needed, like, maybe your team is looking at this and they're like, holy shit, this is public, and you don't listen, so you won't take it down. And maybe maybe in conversation you might even say that's not what I meant, but you're too strong to edit. And now so many people are like, this is so great, and you're like, well, if they think it's great, it must be great because they're great. So I must have put something great out. And the people who are like, dude, are you serious? Those are just like, nah, whatever. It's like, they're just the rare. And suddenly ChatGPT is going to learn from this. And someone's going to ask a question. It's like, what does a techno-optimist future look like? And it's going to regurgitate this bullshit. And I'm here saying, no, it's a different version. It's like the nuance. Me. But I won't put out a manifesto. No,
you won't. This is the world's ask for you to put out a manifesto. I do think that, there are, I think that anyone who would offer a counter opinion probably would not be of the mind to put out a manifesto.
And that's the problem. That is literally the total definition of what the issue we have in this social media age, in this everybody deserves their platform for speech age. It's that the wrong people feel not only entitled and motivated, they are game for the fight.
Yeah.
To such an extent that the right people or the right perspectives, you almost just hear everybody collectively exhale, and you'd be like, you know what, I'm going to choose self-care tonight. I'm going to go and I'm going to take a walk and I'm going to hug my child, because I will not be here for these internet trolls.
Yes.
And so what ends up happening is the middle ground is drowned out because it cannot put up a fight in those spaces where you have to be full on attack mode. And the wrong perspectives, they're ready. They're Marjorie Taylor Greens. They're going to chase you down and bang on your door and be like, blah, blah, blah. Saying nonsense, but they're loud and they're persistent and they don't give up.
What's interesting to me is that you just described the platform dynamics of X, formerly known Twitter, where you have that group on X, and then you have the folks on Threads who moved to Threads, who are looking for that more balanced
lighter
conversation. And so it might now turn into what you find on X, the louder voices in the room, and maybe they just go at each other there.
Well, so this is interesting to link through to the other topic we wanted to talk about, because to me, this manifesto is an example of how we got here. But then you take a incredibly complicated human crisis that exists right now between Israel and Palestine, and you put it on platforms where people have learned this behavior.
Yeah.
And all you get is one extreme going at another extreme, and everything hateful is amplified. Everything wrong is amplified. And like the tech makes it too easy. It's like, I read an article where basically it's like trying to sweep the sea from the beach, because they were there like, okay, this picture that was posted is a picture of somebody attacked by Hamas. It's actually taken from a Syrian conflict in 2013, and this is the person who took the picture. Okay, this bomb that is apparently dropped in this community from Israel is actually taken from something that happened in Kosovo in 2009. Like, it's the lies, the disinformation, the AI generated content, the statements that are opinions issued as fact, the amplification of the noise on the extremes makes everything that needs to happen on the ground 1,000,000% worse.
Yeah.
Right? Like you've got people pressuring government based on the wrong information.
Yeah.
You've got individuals on the ground who are trying to find facts to help them make literal life or death decisions. And the noise of some random person sitting across the world, like just retweeting and sharing something terrible. It's like, part of me, I've stopped. I have not been on X this week. I have not been on Threads this week. Because I almost wanted the platforms to be like, we're going to hit a pause button on anything but actual verified audiences. And then it's like, who are those verified audiences? Not the people who paid the X amount per month.
Exactly.
It's like, I literally only want to hear from people who are there and people who know, and not everybody else. And it's just not possible. So you just have to unplug. You just have to pull yourself out.
You really do. I was listening to BBC, and they were speaking about Ethiopia. And I think, and how exactly, and how Meta has been under fire there because they haven't done anything to work on content moderation, and it's led to deaths of individuals. And so you think about, you just think about the impact social media has on the life, the actual life of individuals, and it's bigger than most of us can imagine.
I kind of reflect on how did we get here with tech, because I feel like, we were joking earlier on about parents, but like I spend probably half of every week disinformation campaigning some WhatsApp forward from my parents and my aunts. And, that can be funny, but in the context of what's happening in the world right now, it's dangerous. It's outright dangerous. And a lot of the time, like in my career, I talk about UX and the responsibility you have to make something feel intuitive and clear and easy, and how we're designing for convenience. I'm like, could we have taught people something different about how they use social media? Could we have taught people to
share
pause?
Forward, like how do you critically
How
examine the information before you spread it.
right. And there's there's a feature on X that I saw a few weeks ago that actually was like, this platform should probably never have existed without this feature. And it's the ability for someone to add a comment. So it's like it might be a news organization or a picture or a video, and then there'll be like almost a community statement about it. So it's not necessarily saying this is true, or it might just be like, this image depicts an angle that is not the correct angle in which the situation happened, and the content therefore may not be so it's like people can contribute qualifiers.
For the
That's the way to
moderation.
put it. It's almost like organic content. So we're not taking the content down, but we're adding context to the narrative, that if you read this, there's more info. And that I saw that happening a little bit with the content around Israel and Palestine. But I'm like, we are not in the habit of questioning or even pausing or verifying. And so when situations like this come up, it's the worst of humanity that comes to show, and the tech makes it too easy to amplify that. And we have very low expectations. We have high expectations that what we see is correct because it's on technology, it's on the internet, and very low expectations of ourselves to make sure we know what the heck we're talking about before we post it.
Yeah, or share it. Like, just
share it.
But WhatsApp is intense. The videos, the articles, like, people just hit that forward button way too easily, especially from our parents. The number of forwards we get. I'm like, where is this from? How many times has this article or video been forwarded? Have you watched it before you shared it? What do you understand of what you watch? Does it seem accurate?
Yeah.
Just all the things. Why do you think it was shared with you? Why are you sharing it with me? All the basic things, not really thought through.
And I don't think our educational systems are helping with that.
Oh, no.
Was it civics? We in the UK, we used to have this personal, social, and health education like class that everyone had to take. But even when I was in school back in the 90s, I remember like it started being optional for some students, and the purpose of the class was that they would do sex ed and they would do like drugs ed, but we'd also have critical discussions about things in the world. See, it was a requirement, but I don't think it is anymore.
Yeah, in Indonesia, in Egypt, it was like there were health classes, but there were nothing more than that.
And we talk about STEM subjects. Do we need more women in engineering? Yes. But do we need every single one of those engineering degrees to include like a philosophy module maybe, or a humanity module maybe, or a civics module maybe? Because we need people who think in whole terms, not just this is possible in the tech. Like I can't help but feel like we have enabled a world that now is stuck in this loop of bad shit happens and all of our tech amplifies the worst, therefore making the thing worse, which allows the next bad thing to be even worse than the previous bad thing, and we just spiral and spiral and spiral in that.
Well, I think in that same path, you get spaces where people feel entitled to sharing very strong opinions for clicks, for attention, for the sound bites. And it just all circles back, right? It's like, just because you have an opinion doesn't mean you need to share it.
Thank you.
Right? You don't have to. You can keep it, and it's okay. I have lots of opinions.
So much.
It's okay. Like, just tuck it in. Not everybody has to hear it or know it, but with social media, and especially if you're looking to grow an audience, like, you need those sound bites to be relevant. You need to stay in front of the news. You need to constantly have that next thing that you're trying to share, trying to say. People to come to you for your opinions, the latest and greatest. And yeah, we almost enable it to a degree. And so if you're not desperate, but if you're wanting to keep that up, I'm sure there is a pressure there then to like consume information maybe more quickly than you can take to understand the content you're consuming and you're sharing and you're talking. And it's all a cycle.
Well, and actually, that's another interesting nuance of the people who we follow on social media, for example, because I saw, a couple of weeks ago when the kind of acute moment in the crisis with October 6th happened, I saw people coming for influencers for staying silent. And one of my favorite influencers, Lovey, she made this point. She was like, listen, I'm smart enough to know that I shouldn't be talking about things that I'm not smart enough to talk about.
There you go.
But because she has a platform, she shamed people. She shared the DMs that she was getting, including one DM, which was hilarious because this woman came for her for not saying anything. So she clapped back and was like, this is not how you come into my DMs telling me about what I should be saying. And then the woman kind of starts getting upset and says, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. And Lovey was like, well, you started, so I'll finish. And so she just kept going because that's literally her profile. It's like, I am the dog with the bone that you do not want, right? And so this woman is then like, I'm just really upset, okay? I already said I'm sorry, now leave me alone. And Lovey was like, but you're still in my DMs. I should leave you alone, but you came to me and you wanted to start something. So that was kind of a little bit of light relief. But in that sense, she was smart enough to know that she did not have the right words, and so she chose not to speak. And she was still taken down by so many people who were like, do not speak. Idris Elba shared a picture of an uncle of his who passed away. And this is somebody that I actually I knew this guy's wife in the UK. And the first comment that I was shown under that image was somebody saying, why are you not commenting about the crisis in the Middle East? And I was like, so he is not allowed to mourn?
Right.
Because of that? Like it, and it was just so much weird toxicity that can happen around this period. I was like, our tech is failing.
I think that, while many people share their thoughts and opinions, we shouldn't obligate or feel that you have to. If someone wants to and they have something to say, you can listen, but that shouldn't mean that everyone has to have a voice in something. It shouldn't work that way.
Well, but I think to our earlier point, not everyone is qualified to comment.
Yeah.
And what you actually really want from the people who are most visible right now is that they shut up and they let the people who are qualified to comment speak. And in the absence of that, we get this. And this is not good.
Yeah.
This is not making any humanitarian efforts or any political efforts any better. Because the court of opinion is social media, not the reality of lives on the ground. And that, I feel super yucky about it all, honestly. Like, it's really, humans have disappointed me.
There's your manifesto.
Humans, you have disappointed me.
There's your manifesto.
But it's definitely something that, it's a reflection on society right now, but I think it's a reminder. Like, for me, it's humbled me again, because it's like, I work in tech and I choose to work in tech with a level of humility that says, I will do my best, but I need to pay attention and read the damn room, because I do not know everything. I cannot be everything. And there are going to be times when you're wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I hope everyone is able to one day get to that same level of understanding, because I do think that the conversations we'd be able to have generally, whether on social media, in the privacy of our one-on-one conversations or small groups, would definitely be a lot more balanced.
Yeah.
And informed.
100%. Can we talk about one more angle on this?
Yes.
Let's talk about allies. So there is that quote, which I think I love, which is like, when you debate something with someone and it's their lived experience, but for you it's a topic, it's a theory, that is not a debate for them. That is not an intellectual discourse. That's harm. And I think there's a parallel between the year of racial reckoning, as we'll call it, right? 2020, when we were all home.
Yes.
And anti-Black racism came. And what I'm observing right now around this current crisis, which is the people I think who are at risk of creating the most harm are actually allies who unintentionally, they come from a good place, but they don't have any sense of just what it means to be on the other side of this. And so they say things that are unbelievably problematic, and they do things that are awful. And it's all about, oh, but it's coming from a good place.
Yeah. Yes. When we were just talking a few minutes ago, it just brought up this feeling I remember when I worked in 2020 in a company, and I remember a friend of mine was like, oh, what's your statement going to be to the company about this like year of reckoning and how you're feeling about things? And I was like, I'm not going to have one. I was like, I don't feel like having one. I don't feel like putting a statement out. I don't feel like going on social media. I don't want to have one. And so the next day at work, several employees reached out to me and they're like, we expected more from you. These are
because you're the visible Black.
There are maybe like a handful of people of color coming. These were a mix of individuals. And it was, why aren't you saying anything? Your voice is missing. And I was like, first, there's no awareness of me in my position as an African American or as a Black person or as a person of color. Like, it is just hey, you're a leader. You're supposed to say something. I'm like, no, I don't have to say something. And the weight you're putting on me is actually more than I feel like taking on right now, because I can actually sit back and observe, and that should be perfectly okay. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to have a voice in the room. But that obligation where people felt that because I did not speak up, I did not care, was really eye-opening for me. I was like, you actually don't know anything about my life, nor have you asked or tried to know anything about my life. And
they probably didn't lead with, are you okay?
If they took even a second, I would have been like, okay, let me correct you on how to approach this in the future. I was like, no, we're not in a learning moment here. You're not trying to do anything good. So it was very accusatory, like, you're not doing this and you're not doing that. It's like, oh, did I hurt your feelings? Did I hurt your feelings?
It's I had a similar but slightly different version, which is like I chose to do some stuff. So I didn't say a lot in that year, but in the job I had at the time, I was like, I'm going to start this and I'm going to do that. And there were a couple of initiatives that I was pushing along until a well-meaning ally who happened to be a white female in another team connected and said she was pumped. She was like, I want to do more. I want to, kind of go bigger. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, do you? Here's what I'm doing. But like, I just, kind of make it effective kind of thing. And she went in on her program and she went in with loudness and quite challenging approach in a tech organization. And the result of that is her program got cancelled and so did mine. Because as far as they were concerned, they being decision makers, all of these things are the same. And she's just shown us what is problematic about those things. And so I really, I had a tough time when that happened. And I really sat there and I was like, I literally was running a program successfully that just got killed because an ally went in on their feelings about what was happening to people of color. And that shut down the actual real world opportunities for people of color. And similarly, there's one thing that I'm going to call out that I'm seeing in some of the like anti-Israeli government protests that I, as I hear in the news, people are joining demonstrations and retweeting stuff on social media that says, from the river to the sea, Palestine must be free. And I'm like, if you don't even know what you're saying, you better shut the heck up. Because by saying that and by starting that chant in protest conversations, they are turning every single one of them into an anti-Semitic protest.
Yeah.
And I watched this happen. I watched this happen. I literally watched a non-Palestinian start this chant. And everyone picked it up and went with them. And I was like, this is not what they really want from you as an ally in this moment. And I think, again, the ease in which you can amplify the thing that you're campaigning for and claim to be fighting for, but the inability for you to actually sit in the space where harm is created, like that nuance, that's something that I think a lot of people still need to take. And even for ourselves, like as an ally to this situation, it's like, this is not one where I take willy-nilly statements and just put them out there because this is what I think. It's like, I do not live that situation.
Right.
And I actually would have appreciated that same amount of introspection during the year of racial reckoning, because what we've seen since is a complete backlash. And part of that is some egregious steps that were taken. It was too much, too soon, too quickly, too far for too many people. And so we just shut the whole thing down, and a whole bunch of other things have stagnated. So yeah, allyship is not, it is not an intellectual state. It's not always how you want it to be, you know?
No, it isn't. It isn't. It isn't. For the few people we have listening, just kidding. I know that this...
Who are growing.
Several people...
All of our friends.
You know, I think the thing that we hope you walk away from this with is that, you know, just taking a moment to reflect and understand, one, what your opinion is if you have one.
Yeah.
Just pause. Like, is this worth stating or sharing further?
Yeah.
And then when you are consuming information and considering whether resharing it or how much you're going to absorb of it, it's like really just critically thinking about it and understanding who it's coming from, their intention, and just digesting it. Because it, like, Lola, when we were talking about this last week or so, this week, you were mentioning how in the manifesto there were quotes taken out of other people's content.
Yeah.
And potentially not being used in the way that they may have wanted it to be used, right?
Yeah. In the Techno-Optimist Manifesto, I think the one that stood out to me was a quote from an author, an economist called Paul Collier, who wrote a book called The Bottom Billion, which was one of my first economic lens on like the African problem. Paul Collier wrote that book to try and align how the world thinks about financial systems with the inhumanities happening to the people who are poorest in the world. And a quote has been taken almost as if to be like, so, you know, since humanity and growth isn't happening because we need growth, we might as well now focus on tech. And I'm like, you know, you could argue maybe that's my reading of the text. I'm like, I don't think Paul Collier would agree with how his quote is being used in that context, because this is not a book about ignoring humanity. And I think, that to add to your point about like, if you have an opinion, that pause is how well informed is that opinion?
Yes.
Because if it's not well informed enough, just sit with that for a while. You know, maybe take that step to go learn.
Right.
If you want.
Share it.
If you feel like you want, go educate yourself. That will always be the better thing to do. But at the very least, if you know it's not that well informed, just
pause.
Just pause. Just allow the voices who know better than you to speak. And apply the same introspection to resharing other people's content. If you don't know who that person is, if you do not know what else they have talked about, if you do not understand the context in which they share their content, maybe they're not your voice to amplify. Yes.
I think we should just end there. That's like a mic drop moment.
Lost in tech, people. We're just wayfinding with you. We're wayfinding with you.
Wayfinding.
We've made this show for you, and we want to hear your stories. We have our combined 35 years experience in tech. We have an incredible bank of experts to call on. We are your safe space. So send us your tech challenges and we'll help you create some draft decisions through some real talk.
You've been listening to me, Mamuna Oladipo.
And me, Oyelayo-Pearson.
edited and produced by me, Michael Bussa, with theme music by 031 Mash.
Email us at help@lostintechpodcast.com or DM us at lostintechpod.